Welcome back to the Eternal Companions podcast. We're your hosts, Scott and Sarah.
On this podcast, we share the secret to developing and maintaining a long-lasting and fulfilling relationship.
Ready? Today we are going to be doing a review and live demo of the Fair Play deck of cards. And since we are doing a live demo, if you are listening to this on like Spotify or Apple Podcast, it may be a better idea to head to our YouTube channel, Eternal Companions Podcast, to watch the video. You still can listen, but you'll get the full effect if you watch the video instead, because we'll be showing you the cards. So back in episodes 2 and 3, we discussed this recurring issue of unfair distribution of labor within marriages and how that can lead to relationship problems over time. So I had heard about something called the Fair Play cards on TikTok, and they are aiming to solve that exact problem.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a solution. And honestly, let us know in the comments if you've had a relationship where you felt like you were doing everything, because that's never fun.
No.
And again, this is supposed to be a solution, or at least an exercise in both parties get to see what's kind of going on in the relationship. But let me read a description about them, and it'll give a bit more context and information on how they work. Fair Play cards were created by Eve Rodsky, a deck of 100 cards that lists all the tasks it takes to run a household. And the goal is to divide these tasks between both parties, right, in the relationship, and divide and conquer areas where you are more proficient or you enjoy more. What's interesting is that the goal is not necessarily to have an equal amount of cards, but because some cards are greater than others, or essentially there's some tasks that require a lot more of a person than the others, and when you're a holder of that card, you're the sole manager. You're responsible for the execution of that task. The creator of the Fair Play cards, Eve Rodsky, she received a BA in Economics and Anthropology from the University of Michigan and her JD from Harvard Law School.
Ooh.
And after working in foundation management at JP Morgan, she founded the Philanthropy Advisory Group to advise high net worth families and charitable foundations on best practices for harmonious operations, governance, and disposition of funds. In her work with hundreds of families over a decade, she realized that her expertise in family mediation, strategy, and organizational management could be applied to a problem closer to home, a system for couples seeking balance, efficiency, and peace in their home. If you're interested in playing along with us as we try out the Fair Play cards, check out the show notes for a link where you can purchase them.
And they're less than $20, so this could be like a fun date night activity.
Yeah,
or something.
It could be fun. Anything
Hopefully
can be
it's fun.
if you make it fun.
Yeah.
If you come at this with an attitude of, let's see who's doing more work, I don't know if you're going to have quite as much fun.
Okay, so let's talk about why someone may need this deck of cards. We mentioned the term like an unfair distribution of labor.
Mm-hmm.
And in episodes 2 and 3 specifically of our podcast, we ran across that topic quite often. Do you remember a couple examples or have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so unfair distribution of labor. Unfair is up for each couple to decide.
That's so true.
And what's important is to decide. A lot of times you're in a relationship and you're just living life and you do what you do and the other person does what they do, but we maybe didn't even take the time to decide who should be doing what. Mm-hmm. And that can lead to a couple things. Maybe there is one person who's really carrying the weight of the tasks and regular things that we have to do in life. They're carrying most of that, and that could be unfair, and they can start to feel resentful for the others. There's also, maybe there are people who feel like that because we might not be as aware of what the other person in the relationship is doing.
Yeah.
So potentially if you do this deck and you split up the cards, it could also be eye-opening and you see what your partner is doing and can help you appreciate their work a bit more.
Yeah. I do want to give a brief disclaimer before we continue on that if you go onto the website for this product, you may see some language that is particularly geared towards women. And these cards and the language on the website were primarily created for women who are experiencing what they consider to be an unfair distribution of labor. They, as women, feel like in their relationships, they are taking on all of the work. And this system was created for husbands to kind of reflect and pick up the slack. And I wanted to give that disclaimer so that if you do share this with your partner, you are a woman, you can give your husband a disclaimer that, hey, I'm not trying to attack you, because the language on the website may come off that way. I just want to be completely transparent. This is a tool.
It's good marketing.
It is good marketing. This is a tool for couples of any sort of combination to use, whether you are husband and husband, wife and wife, if you even are dating, if the husband is primarily taking on the workload at this time, it doesn't matter. This can be used for any relationship, even if things are going well.
Exactly. I would say if things are going relatively well, you're going to have the best time with this anyway, because you're not coming to it from a state of anger or resentment, and you're just, it's just an exercise in trying to improve on what's already good. And that's
amazing.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So let's go ahead and start getting into what actually comes with this deck and what you can expect. And then we'll do a little bit of a live demo. And then at the end, we'll share some tips for how to make this a fun and successful experience. So when you get this deck of cards, it comes in this cute little box. And you will get an instruction booklet, which is hefty, very detail oriented, which is fantastic. There are a ton of rules to this game, which you can customize. And we're not going to get into all the rules. We'll give a brief explanation after I show you what's in the deck. There are a couple special cards that give some definitions. There are, as Scott mentioned, 100 cards. And we have taken out cards that don't apply to us already, because there are some things like...
Our children don't play sports yet.
Right. We don't do dry cleaning. Maybe we should. I don't know. But we took out cards that don't apply to us, and this is what we're left with, unfortunately. That means that this is what we have to do to be functioning adults. That scares me.
So these task cards come in different categories. There's home and out cards, which... home is just tasks for in the house and maintaining the house. Out includes things like travel and your cars and your electronics and things that may have to happen outside the house. There's a caregiving section, which is caregiving to family members who live or don't live in the house, and also like self-care and those sorts of topics.
A few other categories we have here are, this one's interesting, magic. And this is sort of an all-encompassing category for special events, like holidays, even things like religion, extra things for the kids. That's the magic category. And then you have wild cards, which are... particularly burdensome events that are happening within life at various times, and you may or may not have wild cards applying to you.
So the wild cards aren't a task to accomplish, but it's an event.
A status that you're in, kind of. It's like, for example, we are in the first year of an infant's life, which makes all these other things very difficult. Other wild card examples are a death of a loved one, moving. I put in our wild card deck. Maybe we will move, I don't know. But those things can impact your ability to effectively handle these other tasks. So the idea is whoever has a wild card may be able to ask their partner to take on a little bit more in terms of these tasks.
The idea behind these task cards is first you go through, and you look at what is important and who it's important to. There are some tasks in here that aren't really important to me. And if it's not important to me, but it is important to Sarah, Sarah's going to be the manager and executor of that task.
That just makes sense, right?
But if they're important to both of us, then we have to make a decision who is going to manage that task. There are also cards that have a little coffee mug icon on the corner, and those are daily grind cards. This happens every day and are particularly repetitive and can consume a lot of your overall time in your life.
So while you're not hoping to have decks that are exactly equal in number of cards, you do want to be aware of how many daily grind cards each person has, because the quantity of those tasks, since they are so repetitive, can be compared. And you can say, I have 30 daily grinds and you have 1. Can you please help me? Like, that would be awesome if you could help me.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. But in terms of the rest of the number of cards, that's not the point here. Okay, so off camera, Scott and I just did the first part of this exercise, which is to delegate who has cards that only they care about.
Yeah. Mine are pretty simple. If you notice it, the distribution here, there's more items that I don't care about, that aren't important to me in life.
I'm a very caring person. Just kidding.
But I have 2, and one is my own self-care and my own adult friendships, which is arguably, could probably get rid of that card as well. Those items are important to me and not quite as important to Sarah.
I have those cards in my deck for myself for things that are important, but I also have several others that I chose that were important to me. One is thank you notes. I do like to send thank you notes to people. I think that a handwritten thank you note is cute and fun, and I don't have to do it, but I like doing it.
And I could go throughout my life without ever sending or receiving a thank you card and be totally fine.
Are you going to say that about this next one? The next one that's important to me, but not Scott, is parents and in-laws.
Mm-hmm. I could go throughout my life without ever sending or receiving a parent and in-law and be fine.
Really, though, I really do take the lead on managing our family relationships, and that's just something that's important to me and not Scott. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that my deck is, again, I'm going to reiterate this, it's not bad that my deck is bigger than Scott's because I've made this choice.
And this isn't the complete deck
either. This is just stuff that I care about. So we have different categories here, as we mentioned before, and these are all things that we both care about, and so we need to distribute them between the two of us and decide who is going to be the manager of this topic.
Another thing we didn't necessarily mention that we probably won't fully describe for our personal relationship on here, but each of these task cards you do when doing this activity, you also define all of how does it happen, because they're relatively vague. And for example, this first one, this is a daily grind task in the out category called calendar keeper. So we would have a discussion, what exactly does that entail for the calendar keeper? What is the minimum that needs to be done for the calendar to be kept? And that's going to differ for each relationship. But here, Sarah, I'm thinking that you are probably just better at being calendar keeper.
Thank you.
And would you be willing to be the calendar keeper?
I absolutely would be willing to be the calendar keeper because several reasons. One, I feel like I like to do this. I feel like I already mostly do this. And so I will take on the responsibility of owning this task. Yeah. And then we would, like Scott said, have a discussion of what that means for us. So we'll save you the gory details of
also,
that.
I don't necessarily hate calendar events.
No.
I like to be organized, but I think we're playing to our strengths here, and Sarah's going to be a bit more on top of it. And when things are going a little crazy in our life, I will tend to care less about the calendar than she does.
Yeah.
The other out category task is auto.
Would you like to take that card?
Absolutely.
Yay!
I think because auto, it's important to both of us because we want our car to work.
But you're more knowledgeable on this topic.
Yeah.
And
you hate driving.
I don't want to ever drive, first of all. So thank you for taking that. And if there's something I can do to support you in that, let me know. That's something that the instructions don't necessarily recommend. The instructions recommend that if I am the calendar keeper, I am the sole calendar keeper, and I don't include Scott in that process. That we
doesn't
disagree
necessarily
with.
work for us. We are both involved in most of these tasks. And so, talking about how you can customize this for your own relationship, maybe being the keeper of the card doesn't necessarily mean you execute that task 100% of the time, but you are responsible for the execution. So if you are unable to fulfill that task at a certain point, you got to communicate and delegate.
But if it doesn't get done,
it's your fault.
It's your fault. Okay, so the next category we have is home, and there are tons of daily grind tasks within the home category. And again, this is just a sampling of this. We're just going to do a couple cards from each. So the first card I have here is a daily grind, and it is called childcare helpers for the kids. This would mean like booking babysitters or booking a nanny. And I would be happy to take this card because it's something that I already am doing.
Yeah.
And if this escalates to the point where we are like hiring a nanny, of course I'd appreciate your input, but I
would appreciate to give input.
Yes, I will absolutely take the lead for this card. I guess I'll add it to my deck. I kept my deck separate on accident.
Gotta combine your deck.
Yeah. Okay, the next one for home is not a daily grind card, and it is lawn and plants. Would you be comfortable taking this card?
Yeah, because do you know how to mow a lawn? Have you used a lawnmower before?
I think I have when I was a kid. I don't know. I haven't had a lawn in a long time.
Yeah, we don't currently have real grass.
We have artificial grass and gravel.
But we're hoping to soon.
That'd be fun. I feel like a lot of the time you do manage like the weeds in the front yard and the backyard already.
I'm probably doing this more than you are currently.
Yeah.
I'm also the one who has the contact for Jaime in my phone, and Jaime trims our tree when it gets too close to the roof.
Yes. Also, you are good at doing like the weed killer spray and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm
a
also good
pro
at
the weed. You're not good at weed killer spray?
I feel like I would like huff it on accident.
Okay. Let's move on.
Okay. You can talk about this.
Caregiving. Let's see. Some cards here. This daily grind card is medical and healthy living kids.
Ugh.
Interesting. As a daily grind.
Every day you have to make sure your child is alive.
Yeah. You may not have medical every day, but
healthy
you
living.
will have healthy living, which could even extend to things like diets and exercise and activity. That's a big card.
It is. I would be happy to take this card on, especially for the time being, considering I'm breastfeeding and our daughter is dairy-free, and I'm eating dairy-free for that reason.
Because if I ate dairy-free, it wouldn't even affect her.
It would affect her because you'd be upset. So.
Well, yeah, that's true. It would be a negative thing.
And also for medical, like I usually make her doctor's appointments and stuff just because you take her to the car while I'm making the appointment. So I'll take that card.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Oh, interesting. The other item is birth control.
Ugh.
Who wants to be in charge of birth control?
Nose goes. Just kidding.
Yeah. It depends on what type of birth control you use.
They have pictures of different types. They do. In case you are confused.
But I don't know. I think I will take on the birth control card based on the type of birth control that we are currently using. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks.
That's not a very labor-intensive task for me. It would be like if you have a daily pill to take.
Doesn't that suck?
That is a lot more labor-intensive.
Right. Okay.
What a neat card.
Yeah. So the next one is in the magic category. The first one is a daily grind. It is a nightly grind, actually, because it is middle of the night comfort for kids.
Yeah. Well, there's several reasons why I do this. Currently, I'm the middle of the night comfort for kids provider in our relationship.
She loves you.
Yeah, and that's for several reasons. One is you were the middle of the night comfort provider for her for 9 months straight, and I didn't do a thing for that, and so I'm taking my turn.
When she's 9 months, does it come back to me?
Yeah, then we'll swap again. We'll switch every 9 months.
Okay.
And also, it's a lot harder for you to fall asleep if you wake up in the middle of the night.
It is true.
I can fall back asleep in 2 seconds, faster than Lamborghini goes 0 to 60.
It's pretty fast. Thank you. I appreciate that. And sometimes Scott does need my support in this area, you know, and
if
that's...
it's a grueling night, we'll tap out.
Yeah.
It's like tag team wrestling.
For wrestling the baby. Just kidding. Okay. The next magic card is spirituality. And this is an interesting one because I feel like we both have like our personal relationship with God, and like you're not responsible for my relationship with God and I'm not responsible for your relationship with God. So this is kind of like spirituality of the family.
Family activities related to spirituality.
And those things for us, I'm going to explain because this is such a vague card that I want to give some ideas. That would look like church attendance, church volunteering, reading the scriptures, praying.
As a family.
Those types of things. Do you have any other ideas for what would be involved in spirituality? Like teaching
for
the
us,
kids spiritual
and
spiritual
then maybe
things.
some crystals. Just kidding.
Some Reiki.
I'm not really into crystals. Well, I like crystals, but not for spiritual reasons. Because I like minerals.
Okay.
I'll take the spirituality card.
Thanks, mineral boy.
because well, if you don't know, I actually was a religious educator for a time as my career. But maybe not, career might be the wrong word.
Career is a little bit of a...
But my job, my employment, I was a religious educator, and I've put a lot of time into study of religion.
Yes, he has. You're very knowledgeable, and I usually go to you with questions. So I would consider you to be like the spiritual leader of our family. So I think that's a very natural card for you to take on. So off camera, we are going to quickly delegate the rest of these, and we'll come back.
Are we?
Yeah, because then we can show the different sizes of our deck. We'll go fast. Okay. We're back.
We're back.
Here are our individual decks.
Mine looks maybe 3/4 the size of yours, maybe 2/3. Ooh. Hard to say, but it's smaller. You got a big deck.
Thanks.
But how do you feel about this distribution of labor?
I feel like it's really natural for us. I feel like you actually have a lot of the daily grind cards.
Yeah, I ended up with all of the meals because I'm a chef.
You are a chef, you know, and I have things that are maybe more one-off, like magical beings for the kids. Like Santa only visits once a year, but the dishes happen 3 times a day.
Yeah.
So I feel very comfortable with the fact that my deck is slightly larger. In some ways, I feel bad about the things that you have, but you've already been doing those things.
And I'm a chef.
And okay, so then we had trouble with four specific cards.
4 cards that are
completely down the middle.
Shared by both, and we don't want to change it. One is cleaning.
That's just such like
we both clean every day, separately and together.
And somehow it's still a mess.
Shocking. Laundry.
Neither one of us wants it.
hate laundry so much that there's no way one of us could take this full responsibility on and be mentally okay.
We've tried, and it's led to me having to go on Zoloft.
Weekend plans.
Neither one of us is doing this right now, but we both want to.
Yeah. Well, we both want to be involved in the planning of the weekend.
Especially because, like, what if you had a really hard week at work and you didn't really tell me that much about it, and then I'm like, oh, this weekend we're going on a road trip, and you really just wanted to stay home?
I just wanted to sit down for the weekend.
I just think that we really need to be both very much intertwined in it.
Yeah. And then groceries. This one is shared mostly because we do not go to the grocery store. Our groceries are delivered, and we both have the Walmart app. And so if we see something's missing, we just put it in the list.
Yeah, but then I just check out the list, unfortunately, and then we don't have any actual groceries. We just have olive oil.
Yeah.
So Scott is really in charge of wrapping it up, but That's definitely a shared card. And then we do have 3 wild cards right now that are shared between the two of us. Yeah. This one is a little bit more on my side just because I'm breastfeeding.
Well, what is this one?
First year of infant's life.
Yeah, there's more.
It's tilted this way.
Time, just breastfeeding.
It's time. So much time. It's time, but it's also like my physical energy.
And yeah,
I've lost 50 pounds and it's all in the freezer. Okay. Home renovation and moving are things that we are potentially adding to our deck.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for us. We'll let you know. If we have a beautiful new podcast studio in a video, you'll know that these things did go through. But we are sharing all of these. And the idea is if you have a wild card, maybe you could say, is it possible for you to take these? Obviously, you would not just pick random ones. But because they're happening to both of us, let's give these to my mom.
Let's give them away to someone else. No, but there are wild cards such as death of a parent. And while it's probably tough on both of you, the death of your parent is more traumatic than the death of your parent-in-law.
Yes. So that's kind of our breakdown. And then the plan with this, after you do this, is you would do these tasks and own them for 1 week. And then you would come back together and talk about how it went. So really quick, at the end of this now, let's talk about some tips for just coming at this in a successful way and also how to kind of evaluate how things are going at that 1 week check-in.
So there's how to approach this conversation and activity in the first place. Let's start there. Don't approach this in an aggressive manner.
It's not going to go well if you do.
Yeah, it just teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. If you approach this as a joint solution to make the lives of everyone in the household better, then I think everyone would be on board.
Right. And if you realize like, hey, things have not been going so well and like I have all the cards, just use that as an opportunity to say, what do you feel like you can take on? And you can even identify and say, you know, Scott, it's been horrible for me to be the money manager. It's bringing me an unnecessary level of stress. Is this something that you have the emotional bandwidth and mental bandwidth to take on? And just come at it that way as opposed to like, look at all the stuff that I am doing. Like, just ask for help. I think that that's one of my biggest pieces of advice is be vulnerable with your partner. Be humble enough to know that you can't do it all. Mm-hmm. Your partner needs to be helping you. And that starts with you saying, I need help.
Yeah. And then there's a week of doing the tasks. I think it would be smart to maybe put this deck of cards somewhere you will see it. Or maybe at least the daily grind cards, somewhere you'll see them every day, and just make sure you are doing those tasks. Or maybe that doesn't work for you and you might want to set reminders in some other way. But I would say, not only do we now know what tasks you are doing, but you're in a great spot to create an organized system for how to remember to do those tasks.
One thing a tool that we have in our house is called the Skylight Calendar. And something that Scott and I may do, because this is just very natural to us, is I could take all the daily grind tasks and set them aside, and then take the other tasks that happen regularly throughout the week, but maybe not every day, and assign like, okay, I'm going to do all these tasks on Monday, all these on Tuesday, and upload them to the chore list in the Skylight Calendar, and you would get an automatic reminder.
Is like a digital calendar. It's like your Google Calendar, your Apple Calendar, but it hangs on our wall, and you can connect it to those calendars and sync events. And so, that could be a very helpful way for us to see these tasks and also not have to handwrite everything, but just it makes it simpler to set recurring tasks on a digital calendar.
Yeah, and if you're interested in checking out those Skylight calendars, there's a link in the description below. It was Scott's Father's Day gift. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have done these tasks for a week and you come back and reevaluate. How do you do that?
I think that the first thing that would make a really successful conversation is if you said, hey, I noticed that you did these things this week, and this is how that positively impacted me.
Yeah.
And you can start with that, and then you share the positives, and then hopefully both partners are able to do that. Or maybe you like for us, we have been doing most of these tasks already, so there's not a huge change. maybe the conversation is, hey, I know that you've been doing this for the past 6 months, and I just want to let you know I do see it. I finally know, I recognize it. And just give your partner a pat on the back for all that they do, because I can guarantee you they're doing a lot. And then the next thing that I would recommend doing is, again, being humble and honest, saying, this didn't go well. Yeah, whatever this is for you.
First off, things that didn't go well is any tasks that didn't get accomplished.
Oh yeah, that's a problem.
So see what didn't happen and reevaluate how, maybe you reevaluate what it means to execute that task, or maybe you reevaluate who is the manager of that task. And then after that, look at tasks that were just very difficult to accomplish.
Yeah, I think that one more thing that is just kind of a logistical idea is look at the daily grind cards that you did every single day and think, like, was it necessary for me to actually do this every day? Or can we kind of change the frequency that we are doing some of these tasks in either direction? There may be tasks that you have only been doing once a week, like laundry, and you're realizing, hey, if I'm the sole manager of laundry, I think I should probably do it twice per week. And just kind of use it as a checkpoint for the logistics of your household as well. Because if things are not piling up, it's going to be less stressful overall, and those conversations never have to be sad if no one is feeling stressed, if that makes sense.
So, Sarah, would you recommend these Fair Play cards?
I definitely think that I would recommend these cards. They were fun, easy to use, they get you thinking, they help you recognize all that your partner is doing and maybe what you yourself are not doing. I think it was a really good exercise. So yeah, overall, I definitely would recommend them.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode.
Do you have a love story worth sharing? Head to eternalcompanionspodcast.com to be a guest on our show.
And don't forget to check out the show notes.
See you next week.